Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, an assembled company wherever you are in this big wide world. Welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe. And tonight is a very special night. It's coming to the end of in the UK of the official Black History Month. And no doubt Baden has got something to say about that in his intro. But and I'm going to hand over. I'm going to shut up for a change until the end of the program, possibly. I'm going to hand over to Baden, who is our host for the night. Baden Prince Jr. Please, can you take it away?
If I unmuted myself. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm never sure with these headsets. I see lots of nodding heads. That's good. Well, first of all, of course, thank you for coming along and joining us this evening on this Black History Month special. It's Black History Month here in the UK. It's different in different parts of the world. Baba C, who will be be performing shortly, will say something about that and about the link between BHM in the States, BHM in the UK and beyond out into the world. I'm just going to say a little bit about the performers who are going to be with us tonight, and a word of caution to the performers that we have some members of the under generation with us who are quite young, so I just ask you to perhaps keep that in mind as you select the material that you're going to perform. I'm going to start this evening with two things. One is a very short poem, which was forwarded to me by John. I'd ask you, if you're not actually speaking at the moment, i.e. if you're not me, to perhaps mute so that we don't have the Zoom echo effect. So I'm going to start with a short poem which was written by a participant in one of John's workshops, which I think is very, very pertinent to tonight's theme. It's about his reflections on Black History Month. It's very short, very much to the point, and as John said, I love this kind of stuff. Superficially simple, but really what it does is it says a huge amount in very few words. The title is Every Day. Every day for me, says Raymond, is Black History Day. Every week for me is Black History Week. Every month for me is Black History Month. I don't have to conveniently consider a day in a week, out of a month, out of a year. No, I live it. I breathe it. I walk it. I talk it. I do. Or should I have to? That's Every Day by a gentleman who identifies himself simply as Raymond. John, thanks for sharing that, and please pass on my thanks to Raymond for allowing us to share that in this forum. Thank you. Well, here we are, and tonight we have a stellar lineup. We're waiting for Shola Story, who's meant to be joining us. Of course, we have the irrepressible Baba C, who's joining us from Washington, DC, and the inimitable, the incomparable, the incredible, any more words beginning? The indelible, the, I wish I'd written some of these down before I started. Usifu Jallo, AKA the Cowfoot Prince, who will be doing his own irrepressible, inimitable thing at great length for us shortly. But before all of this wondrous, thank you, Lucy Wood. for that thumbs up. Before all of these wondrously gifted performers take the stage, I would like to share with you, if it's okay, a short story. I'm not going to tell you the story's title because that would give it away. There was once a very wealthy man who had everything. He had a massive house, he had lands, he had a farm on which he had many animals. He had a barn full of feed, he had a cellar full of gold. He had everything that life could offer, everything that is, except a wife. How he yearned for a wife to make his life complete. But he never met anyone who he thought was worthy of that role, who could take that place in his life and fulfill it to his satisfaction. Among his many possessions, he had a small herd of white cows. I'm very pleased to see that Shola Story has joined us. Good evening, Shola. Now, these cows were special because they were such a rare breed that to possess even one of them was a sign of your wealth. This man had not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, but 7, one for every day of the week. And that spoke to everyone for miles around about the extent of his wealth. The reason these cows were special is because their yield of milk was huge. The volume of milk they produced was beyond that of any other species. And every day he would take these cows out to pasture, and every night he would bring them back. And every morning, before he took them to pasture, he would milk them. And so life went on for days and months and weeks and years, as it does in stories, until one fateful day, and I'm pretty sure you know what's coming, he went to milk his cows, and the first cow he sat down to yielded nothing, not a single drop. Strange, he thought, but these things happen. He went to the next animal, and the same thing happened, and the next, and the same, and the next, and the same. He thought, I think the feed in their pasture, the grass they must have overeaten. Maybe the grass isn't as rich anymore. So he moved them to a meadow a couple of miles away, where he normally reserved that feed for when there was drought or when there was hardship, because the grass in that pasture was always rich. And he let them feed there that day, a little bit longer than he normally would have done. And then he took them home. And next morning, when he went to milk them, nothing. Not a single drop from any of those cows. Now, this was beginning to get a bit worrying. But because he still put it down to something being wrong with the quality of the feed, or perhaps the cow's digestion, he decided to take drastic action. And he led them miles away to a valley deep and far beyond the mountains, surrounded on all sides, where the weather did not affect the quality of the grass in that pasture. And there he let them feed and feed and feed. And he took them home very late that night, knowing that the next morning they would surely bring forth milk. But when he went to milk them in the morning, there was nothing. Finally, he allowed his suspicions to come to the fore. He was very kind to all the villagers and to everyone for miles around. Why would anyone steal from him? but he was convinced now that that was the only explanation. Somebody was coming into his barn at night and milking his cows and stealing his milk. So that night, he stayed up, stayed awake till the early hours of the morning. And just as he was about to doze off, he saw the most amazing sight. Down from the heavens descended 7 golden threads, like moonbeams falling out of the sky. And down on each of these golden shreds came a beautiful maiden, each carrying a large bowl upon her head. They made their way into his barn and sat and began milking the rich yield from his cows. Each and every one of these women was beautiful, so beautiful that he was entranced to the point where he forgot why he was there. He forgot what he was doing there until they'd finished their job and got up and started making their way back and ascending these golden threads back up into the heavens. Stop, he yelled, and he ran out from the barn and chased after them, and he managed to grab the last of these maidens before she could escape. And when he gazed down at the woman who he was holding in his arms, his heart skipped a beat. His breath caught in his throat. He had never in his life seen anyone so beautiful. And in that instant, he thought, I found the woman who's going to be my wife. Please, she pleaded with him. She begged, let me go, release me. No, he said. Look, we meant you no harm, she said. We can't produce milk. My father, Nyame, the sky god, has sent us down here to gather nourishment for our people. Please, let me go, please. She pleaded and begged, but he refused. He insisted. And eventually, she yielded to his demands. Let me go and seek my father's permission, she said. I'm sure that he will look down on you and grant you your wish. Reluctantly, he released her. And she was as good as her word. She came back shortly after, and the two of them got married. On the day of their wedding, when she moved into his house, she brought with her a single item, a basket. She placed it on the mantle and she said, this is the one thing I will ask of you. Do not open this basket. Do not look into it. When the time is right, I will show you what it contains. Promise me this. I'm yours forever. So he promised. Time went by as it does in stories, days, weeks, months, and one fateful day, while his wife was out on some errand, engaged on some task, he had to go to the mantle to retrieve something, and it was right next to the basket, and he looked at it and he thought, oh, there's that basket that she left it. I wonder what's in it. No, he said, I gave her my word that I wouldn't look. And he turned away, but it was as if the basket was calling to him saying, you know, you want to know. I mustn't, he thought, I mustn't. And he turned away, but the curiosity took hold of him. And then in that strange way that men have of justifying what they know they're doing is wrong, he went into a self. I'm not going to say who, but there was someone here who's just been told by his partner, that's you. In that way that men have. He started, hold on, I am the man of this house. This is my house. I have every right to know, but what right does she have to be keeping secrets from me anyway? And you know what happens next, don't you? He walked over, he lifted the lid of the basket and looked inside and burst out laughing. Is that it? Really? He put the lid back and he went to sit on his chair, rolling with laughter, holding his stomach. And that's how his wife found him when she came home shortly after. She took one look at him and instantly she knew what had happened. You looked, didn't you? She said. Yes, he said. I can't believe that you made me. And then he caught sight of the look on her face, those beautiful dark brown eyes like liquid pools had turned cold and hard and glinted like diamonds. Without a single word, she gathered the few possessions that she had. She turned, she placed them in the basket, and turning and looking at him for one last time before she left, she said, "I'm sorry," and went through the door, never to be seen again. Well, years went by, as they do in stories. He wasn't a bad man. He was just foolish. He allowed curiosity to get the better of him. And over time, he met someone else, and they married, and they had children. And as those children grew up and approached the point of maturity, he took them to one side one day and said, "Never, ever laugh at someone's dreams, because what was in that basket, what she was saving to share with him, was her hopes, her aspirations, her dreams, and she was waiting till the time was right, as they came true, to share them with him." And he had laughed at them. That, my friends, is the story I was told and which I'm now sharing with you, and which you are free to share yourselves. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. And a wealth of riches. My God, where do we start? Shola Story, with whom I spent a very enjoyable Thursday evening in the company of other members of our writers group at an event organized by my firstborn son-in-law on his behalf. Good to see you again, my brother. Are you able to hear us?
Oh, Sola.
Shola, we seem to have difficulty hearing you. Is everything okay at your end? Okay, while Shola reckons with wrestles with the gremlins, 2 minutes? Okay.
There we go.
He's here, he's here.
I'm here.
You are here. Are you ready?
I'm ready. How long have I got? It's good to see you. That was a beautiful story, by the way.
Thank you, thank you. Well, you have, my friend, as long as you need, as long as it doesn't take more than as many minutes as you need to take it to tell your story.
All right.
A storyteller telling another storyteller that.
Storyteller's response to a straight question, but nevertheless, I'll work with that.
If you go over your time, you will disappear from the screen. That's when you know you've gone on too long. Over to you. Show
well,
the
good
story.
To see all of you. So, greetings, everyone. Very good to see many of you that I know, including Baba C. and many others that I can see here, John and Keith, and if I say everybody, then I'm going to spend the whole day doing that, aren't I, instead of telling the story. So the story I want to tell you is a story that was told to me many years ago, and upon telling it in a residential home for elders in Tottenham, one of the elders, who was from Uganda, told me that that was a story that was from their region and that children were told as children. So that was a great discovery for me to learn that. The story is called Uwanjelima. And those of you who know me no doubt expect that I'll be involving you in the story in some way, as is my wont, so to speak. So I know on Zoom that there is a cacophony when everybody unmutes. Nevertheless, I believe that it's okay to unmute and allow the cacophony. So what I would like is that when I say in a place far from here, I would like you to say, but near to there. So, in a place far from here,
But
near
near
to
there.
The animals, they could talk in this land, and they did profusely. They lived in a place that was fecund and rich. Forests stretched for hundreds of miles. The sweet rivers were abundant, filled with all manner of goodness. And the animals wanted for nothing. And it is because of this that when the wise elder from across the hill came to tell them that one day this land will be beset by famine and droughts, and you will all begin to suffer, maybe even to die. However, because I have seen this, I have come to prevent the terrible things that might happen. Therefore, I give you this seed. Plant this seed, which of course you can all see, right? I thought so. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to describe it at length, but I know you can see it. I hope you can still hear me as well. Can you still hear me? Yep. Plant this seed when everything happens, when there is drought, when there is famine. Plant this seed in the center of your sacred grove and say this magic word. The magic word is Uwanjelima. So I would like you all to just say that magic word with me, which is Uwanjelima. Okay. So the animals, they were very respectful, as many people in ancient cultures are, of their elders. However, at the same time as being respectful, they also felt that this elder was missing a few links in the chain, so to speak, because as far as they could see, for hundreds and hundreds of miles, there was fecundity. The land was fertile, had been for thousands and thousands of generations, and seemed as if it would be for 1,000 more. So they took the seed, but promptly forgot the name, the magic word, because they didn't believe that they would ever need it anyway. And indeed, they were right for a long time. But eventually, it so came to be that the drought became pronounced. The famine killed all of the plants. The animals began to suffer. and death seemed very close. They didn't know what to do. And then Elephant, who was well known for his prodigious memory, said, I know, I'm going to imagine you're all children now, I know what we'll do here. Let's get the seed that we were given and plant it in the center of our sacred grove. I, Elephant, will remember the magic word and we will all be saved. So the animals looked around and then stumbled across the sacred seed that had been hidden, even away from their own memory, took the seed, planted it in the center of the sacred grove, and Elephant said, the magic word, back away, back away, back away, back away, give me space, give me space, give me space. The magic word is ooh, ooh, I may have forgotten. Oh, Elephant, the animal sighed. How could you, of all of us, forget? We are doomed. But then Lion came around and Lion said, it's okay. I will go to the land of the elder and ask her to remind us of the words. Oh, yes, great idea. I don't know why we didn't think of that. Quick, Lion, go. So Lion went. Lion went. He ran through. Was that an indication of time, Baden? No, okay. Aha. He ran through the forest. And I can see that Baden is running through the forest. It looks like Baden is the only one running. Oh, and there's Baba C. He's running through the forest, and it seems that John Rowe has joined in. And it's just amazing. Everybody's running through the forest along with Keith in Lincolnshire and Santa Willie Faculty. We're all running through the forest. And as they ran, as Lion ran through the forest, he jumped over a log, swam through a river, and eventually came upon the land where the elder lived. And the elder looked upon Lion and laughed and said, I know why you have come. Let me tell you now, the magic word is Uwangelim. What is the magic word, people?
Uwangelim.
So Lion thanked the elder and immediately ran back to his own land. And as he swam through the river and got to the other side, a monkey jumped out of the tree and pulled his tail. So Lion, being very angry, tried to catch a monkey. But monkey was too fast. Monkey was and leapt out of the way. And then Lion remembered what his task was. So he jumped over the log and ran through the forest all the way to the sacred grove. And when he reached the sacred grove, he stood over that seed and he pointed at the seed and he said, the magic word is
Uwangelini. Oh no.
Who wants the jelly?
Thank you very much, Philippa. But even though
Angelina
you've forgotten,
Jolie?
yes, it was something similar to that, but Lion, just like you, Baden Prince, and Philippa Kabali Kagwa, had forgotten the magic word. When the monkey pulled his tail, all thoughts of the word disappeared from his head. And so then the next animal to go was Antelope. So Antelope too ran through the forest and jumped over the rock and swam through the river and reached the land of the elder. And the elder said, oh, he forgot, did he? Well, the magic word is Uwangelima.
Uwangelima.
And so Antelope thanked the elder and ran back through, swimming through the river, jumped over the rock, ran through the forest, and was so excited to get there that Antelope ran straight into a tree. Boom! Staggered back to the sacred grove and immediately admitted, I'm very sorry, but I've forgotten the word. After that, animal after animal after animal went to see the elder, and all returned with a mishap that made them forget what the magic word was, until in the end, there was only one animal left. And that animal was Tortoise. And Tortoise said, I'll go. The rest of the animals laughed. They said, if we strong animals, we wise animals could not remember, and if we could not complete this task, how can you foolish tortoise? If we are depending upon you, we are already dead. But Tortoise did not listen. As was Tortoise's wont, Tortoise was plodded slowly through the forest. Thank you for John Rowe for being a tortoise. Jumped over the log slowly. Swam through the river. And eventually reached the land of the wise elder. Once again, the wise elder laughed and said, I see you are the last hope. You'd better remember this word. It is Angelima.
Angelima.
And this time I'd like you to remain unmuted, because Tortoise did something different than all the rest of the animals. Tortoise chanted as she went. Ooh, Angelima. Ooh,
Angelima.
Ooh, Angelima. Tortoise reached the river, swam through, and the current carried her down river and washed her up on the bank. And Tortoise lay on the bank with her legs in the air, struggling to roll over, and eventually she rolled over. And water fell out of her shell and out of her mouth. And as she stood up, she said, ooh, 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 Angelima. Ooh, Angelima. Ooh, Angelima. She jumped over the log, tripped up, and rolled all the way to a tree. Poof! She was stunned. But once again, she stood up and she said, ooh, 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 Angelima. Ooh, Angelima. Ooh, Angelima. And eventually she reached the she ran through the forest. Well, she ran through the forest like this. And eventually, at high speed for a tortoise, she reached the sacred grove. And she stood over the sacred grove and she said the magic word, which was
Ooh, Angelima.
Woo!
Except, friends, after her trials and tribulations, and after everything that all the animals had been through, she said it more like this. Ooh, Angelima! And suddenly, all around her, shoots began to sprout out of the ground. The rivers were filled once again with sweet waters. The trees grew back. The fruits laden the trees heavily, and the land was filled with golden corn once again. And so it is said that tortoise, saved the land. The land was once again restored. And I put it to you, good people, that perhaps each of us, when in the deserts of our own lives, might well remember this story and find within ourselves that magic seed that will help us to restore our own birthright, whatever that may be. The end.
Beautiful story, Shola. Beautifully story and beautifully told. I may have a word with you about borrowing that story at a reasonable rate of interest.
Well, I was about to say it's free, but since you
Okay, yeah,
mentioned
all right. Bye.
let's have
Thanks.
a conversation.
I think you need to thank you, Shola. You need to mute now. And thanks again for stepping up to the plate on Thursday. I really appreciate it. And good to see you tonight. Well, another.
Great.
I mean, I'm going to ask you for a round of applause, even though he won't be able to hear it. Let's give Shola some jazz hands. Lovely, lovely, lovely story. And now we come to, I was going to say a very special part of the evening, but every part of this evening is going to be special. I would like to welcome my brother from another mother from across the ocean, the man who never moves in slow motion, the rapper, the dapper, the super duper, the one and only Mr. A to the B to the Baba C, everybody.
Shola, you are magnificent. You are magnificent. And today I have to follow you. And I've been very quiet today for me because I'm recovering from a mild case of the flu. And so, yes, a mild case. Baden, if they tell you it's a mild case, slap them. If it's a doctor, slap them. And I'm not a violent person. But so I'm marshaling my voice. But I want to do several things a little bit different. In the chat, I shared from doctor, and he was a doctor. A lot of people don't put that there. He held several doctorates. He was the second African-American to graduate, I think, from Harvard. But in addition to his books, The Miseducation of the American Negro, and so much more, Dr. Carter G. Woodson's founding of Negro History Week in 1926 helped to establish and influence the United States Black History Month in 1970, the United Kingdom's Black History Month in 1987, Germany in 1990, Canada in 1995, and the Republic of Ireland in 2010 and beyond. And I mention that because there's a saying that says, like, sometimes when people of African descent from different countries get into arguments about who's Black or who's not Black, someone said, the only difference between us is a boat stop. Think about it. I didn't say boat ride because that was no ride, but the only difference between us is a boat stop or a call of port, okay? And so it also calls to mind to me a saying that says, if not for them, because of them, we are. And the third one which says, we stand on the shoulders of those who went before. So all that ties together. And I just wanted to share a few things. And I am going to tell a story, but so often when and I love the fact that the way you guys shared your stories today, it did not harbor on the atrocities and negatives done to us, because our histories are dualities. There's a lot of sadness, but there's a lot of joy as well. And one of the things I wanted to do was talk about a little bit about some of the positive influences. For instance, just about everybody in the world knows about a TV series called Star Trek, or you know about the movies. And there's a very famous African-American character called Lieutenant Uhuru, or Uhura. In the 70s, on the original Star Trek, Nichelle Nicole played Lieutenant Uhura. And she was getting ready to leave the show. And as the story goes, she was introduced to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And she said to him that she was going to leave the show. And he said to her, no, you cannot do that. Please do not do that. He said, you don't understand. Well, he didn't say you don't understand. He said, you represent a future. a future that we are very seldom portrayed in. When little Black boys and girls see you, they can see they can see the potential of what they can be. I'm paraphrasing. And he convinced her to stay on the show. Now, why is that important? Because several decades later, Mae Jemison would enter the astronaut program in the United States and become one of the first African Americans to take to flight. She was, you know, I'm so full of this. This gets next to me, but she went into outer space, and it's said that when she opened, she was I think communication officer, which is ironic because that's what that's what Uhuru was. And they said that when she opened her communication, she said, "Houston, all frequencies are open," which is what Uhuru would say on Star Trek. That became her signature line. So seeing us, hearing us, experiencing us in art, in speaking, in science, encourages those who follow to go beyond what they were told they cannot do. All right, so in addition to that, I wanted to share, and I know I just have all this stuff. I have a whole stack of stuff here, and I haven't gotten to my story yet, but there were 5 young people that I wanted to encourage you to learn more about. And let me find my I don't call it a cheat slip. At 70, dealing with a mild case of the flu, I call it my memory enhancement slip. Well, there's a young man called Corey who has Corey cookies. He started baking when he was very, very, very young. He still is young compared to us. And he got so popular that his parents had to build a professional kitchen in their garage. And the moment they did that, he was no longer legally allowed to cook because he was underage. So he hired his mother to do the cooking, wink, wink. There's a young man called Mo who had Mo's Bows, and Mo's Bows, oh man, this youngster, and again, these are kids who were somewhere between the ages of, say, I'll say 9 and 13 when they became entrepreneurs. I hope I got that word right, entrepreneurs. Okay, he went on the American Shark Tank. He so impressed them that the black shark, whose name I shouldn't forget and just did, but he was the founder of FUBU. He said, "No, I'm not buying interest in your organization. I'm going to mentor you." And he took him under arm and showed him how to go beyond where he was. And now Mo's Bows appears at some of the finer department stores throughout the country. There's a young lady who was known as super business girl. She started out when she was like 8 years old, and now I think she might be of the elder age of 16, maybe 17, and she travels around the country teaching young people how to become their own business persons. I mean, these are things that are fascinating. These are things that are universal. These are things that we should celebrate. Sure, the pain gave us the determination to move forward, but the pain also helped to evolve into joy, evolve into positive accomplishments. And I wanted to share a little bit about that before I do my story, because as an African American, I understand that the pain is the seed. Unfortunately, it's part of the seed, not the seed. It's part of the seed, and I understand that. But we also have to rejoice. We have trials, we have tribulations, and we have triumphs, and we have to learn how the 3 of them inspire each other. Okay. Let me get off. Let me step from behind the from the lectern and do a short story. Now, I wasn't going to do this story originally, but I am. Something said do it. You will pardon me for not doing my traditional long intro. My voice won't allow me to do it today. I'll sound like Baden. I mean, I'll sound. No, I caught myself, Baden. I'm sticking to it. Baden and I, before we started broadcasting, Baden and I decided we were going to do our best to behave, because a lot of people don't understand that our jocularity is just, brotherly exchanges. So we respect and love each other dearly. Shola, did I sound convincing? Anyhow, so this is my story about someone in a negative situation who possibly turned it into a positive situation. Now, while I'm telling you a story, I want you to remember a line from Aretha Franklin's an Aretha Franklin song called "Who's Zooming Who." Okay. Now, you can stop now. There was a enslaved person called King John Silver. And they called him king because that was his name and the name that his so-called master gave him. They called him John because, well, everybody needs another name. And they called him Silver because he always had himself a pocket full of silver that he wasn't supposed to have. Now, he got this pocket full of silver that he wasn't supposed to have. Now, whenever I say he had a pocket full of silver, I need you guys to unmute and go, that he wasn't supposed to have. So he had a pocket full of silver.
He wasn't
That he
supposed to
wasn't supposed
have.
to.
And he would go up, and the way he got that is he would go off to town where he wasn't supposed to go. He would go off to town where
He wasn't supposed to go.
and he would sell fortunes he wasn't supposed to sell, that he wasn't supposed to.
Tell.
No.
So whenever I do this, try to remember what line I just said and repeat it, okay? Well, he would sneak away from the plantation and take his magical goat skin. You have to use your imagination. And he would go off to town going, fortunes, fortunes for sale, fortunes, fortunes for sale. And he would spend all day in town where he wasn't supposed to go. That be go, okay. Selling fortunes he wasn't supposed to
Sell.
and make himself a whole bunch of silver that he wasn't supposed to.
Oh,
And toward the evening, he would come back, tambourine in hand, trying to go in quietly, magical goat skin over his shoulders. And he didn't quite make it there. The so-called master stopped him and said, John. By the way, that's not the way most of those folks spoke back then. But, you know, people like to romanticize things. And they talk about the way slaves talk. Slaves talk the way the people around them talk. So if I are going to talk like this, it probably means that's what I done heard. But on the other hand, if I talk like this, it's probably because that's the way the people around me talk. So you're going to hear all kinds of voices this evening, hopefully outside of your head. He said, John, where have you been? Now, John knew he couldn't tell that man he had gone off to town where he wasn't supposed to
Go.
Go.
But
Go
before he could say anything, his pocket full of silver began to shake. And the so-called man said, John, is that silver? Is that silver I hear in your pocket? Well, yes, sir, I suppose it is. And just where did you get that silver, John? Now, John had to do some quick thinking because once again, he knew he couldn't tell that man he had been off to town where he wasn't supposed to.
Go.
Selling fortunes he wasn't supposed to.
Tell.
oh,
And that's why he had all that silver he wasn't supposed to.
Possess.
Have.
Yeah.
Baden corner. Baden was possessed by trying to behave, but that's okay. Well, so he said, well, oh, Master, you got me this time. I was selling fortunes. John, you're one of my favorite slaves, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to make an example of you. Tomorrow, I'm going to have to drown you in the river. Well, so I suppose you got to do what you got to do, but Baden told me to go. Well, the next day, the people had heard that the so-called master was going to drown King John Silver, and everyone was upset. The women were upset because King John Silver, whenever he could, he would help them out with their task. And he was always nice and giving out flowers and just very nice. And the men liked him because, well, he joined them and helped them do what they had to do as well. So everyone was just a boo-hooing, which I can't do this evening because I'll be boo crying or boo coughing. So, you know, that's all right. We'll just imagine a bouquet of sounds. Well, Yeah, I know. I didn't even believe that one. That was okay. So just before they could drown him, he said, Maz, if you're gonna drown me, you better put me in a sack. And you better fill that sack full of rocks. And John, why should I do that? Well, you see, eyes full of air. Well, we know he's full of something. Eyes full of air. If you just throw me in the river, I'm going to swell up and float to the top, and I won't drown like a good slave should. That's a good idea. So he called on two of his favorite slaves, Baden and Prince, and he said, Baden, Prince, go get me a sack. And so they went and got him a big sack. Now, if you've ever been to a farmer's market and seen those great big rough sacks that they have potatoes or grain in, it was bigger than that. And John got inside the sack. He says, but the Mazza, where you know what? Instead of a rock, use an anvil. An anvil? Yeah, you see, an anvil is one great big heavy piece. Rocks can slide off, and we don't want that. Well, that's a good idea, John. Baden, Prince, go find the biggest anvil you can find on the plantation. And so Baden and Prince went off to find the biggest anvil they could find on the plantation. And they found it. Did they bring it back? No. Ask me why.
Why?
Why?
Because they did exactly what the master told them to do. They found it. He did not tell them to bring it back. And they're looking at it. That's a big anvil. Yes, the biggest one we got. Sure is. I wonder what the master's going to do with it. I don't know, but he said find it. Here it is. So realize this mistake. The so-called master went off to find Baden and Prince. And while he was gone, John undid the croaker sack, slipped out, put some rocks in the croaker sack, tied it back up, and slipped behind a whole bunch of bushes. When the master came back, he said, John, are you still in the croaker sack? Now, John was a slave, but he wasn't stupid. He said, yes, sir, I'm still in the croaker sack. And they untied it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, John had put his work shirt on top of the rocks. The master saw the work shirt and thought that was just King John all hunched over. And he said, Baden, Prince, drop that anvil on top of King John's silver. And they did. He went, oof. Because like I said, he was a slave. He wasn't stupid. They tied it together and they dragged it on down to the river. Everybody say river.
River.
Unmute and say river.
River.
Not river, river.
River.
Thank you.
Back to the river.
That's right. Someone's padding their part. But yes, anyhow. So they dragged it down and we're going to count to 3. And you can unmute when you count to 3. And then we're going to throw that croaker sack in the river. So unmute everybody. Come on.
1,
1,
Put some energy into it.
2,
And that real loud.
3.
Thank you. Now mute again. So that croaker shot that croaker sack, shot up in the air, and it came down and went splash. Everybody unmute and go blue, 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 blue.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
Okay, I won't do that one again. All right. Okay, anyhow, mute again, please. And so the croaker sack went down in the river. And after a couple of minutes, after all the crying and boo-hooing and boo-cane was going on, everybody went back to doing their work. Notice I didn't call them chores. They went back to doing their work. King John waited a while, made sure everybody was busy. The master had gone back to the big house on the top of the big hill. And notice how it's a big house. It's a positive thing when there are masters living in it. The big house is a negative thing when black folk are locked up in it. But that's another story for another time. So he went off to town going, fortunes for sale. Fortunes for sale. Came back that night and he had 2 big bulging pockets full of silver. And the master was feeling bad because he thought he had killed King John Silver. Now I gotta ask you a question. If he was feeling bad because he thought he had killed King John Silver, how do you think King John Silver would have felt if he had been killed? Well, he was walking in the moonlight. Well, that's another song, excuse me. And he saw this big, strapping black man step out of the shadows. He went, oh! John. John, is that you? Well, sir, I suppose it is if you can see me. He says, John, I hear the distinct sound of silver in your pockets. Now, I knew I threw you in the river, so where did you get that silver? Once again, John was a slave, but he was not stupid. He said, well, Master, when you threw me in the river, because remember I asked you to put that anvil on top of me, the croaker sack split open, the anvil fell off of me. I tried to stay down at the bottom of the river and drown like the good slave you trained me to be. I was clawing and everything, but Master, I told you I was full of air, and I floated to the top of the river. And when I got to the top of the river, I had 2 pockets full of silver. You mean to tell me there's silver in the river? For those that needs to see it. Well, how can I get some of that silver, King John Silver? Well, sir, I suppose we're gonna have to put you in a croaker sack and throw you in the river. Well, sir, the next day, that's exactly what they did. Everybody gathered around, but this time, no one was crying. They were laughing. And once again, I can't laugh today. Not a lot. Hold on a moment. That cough was brought to you by a mild case of the flu. Anyhow, so they took them, they went on down, and this time, I mean, they were doing everything but barbecuing on the shore. I mean, they were happy because they knew this sucker was going in and hopefully was not coming out. Well, sir, we're going to count to 3 again, and everybody needs you to be energetic. Here we go.
1,
2,
2,
3.
And that croaker sack shot up in the air. And it came down and went splash, bloop, 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 bloop. Now, I got to tell you something. That man may have been a plantation owner, but he, in addition to being greedy, was not too bright. See, the croaker sack did split open, and the anvil did fall off him back, his aching back. Did that man try to come up to the surface of the water? No. He's down the bottom of the river, clawing, looking for silver, clawing left and right until he couldn't hold his breath any longer, and he shot up out of the water like a fish caught by the wrong end. But that's another tale. Ba-dum-bum. Well, sir, he crawled on shore, out of breath, coughing up water, looking worse coming out than he did going in, and he already looked pretty bad. And he dragged himself up to King John Silver. He said, John. I didn't find any silver in the river. Why didn't I find any silver in the river? You know, Mazza, it might be because you already got that big house on top of that big hill already filled with gold and silver and other good stuff. You didn't need to see it. The Mazza looked at John, looked at the big house, looked at John, looked at the big house, and stomped off to the big house where he stayed for the rest of the 3 days. For the rest of 3 days. Well, sir, people looked at John, they looked at the big house, they looked at John, they looked at the big house, and they very quietly had their own celebration. No, not Juneteenth, that's another story. Well, after things had settled down, John grabbed himself his tambourine and another magical goatskin rug, and they tell me that even today, when Congress is out to recess or the weather is just right, you can still hear King John Silver going, fortunes for sale, fortunes for sale. For you see, the fortunes of people is not necessarily in the limitations of their deeds. You can be physically imprisoned, but if you keep your mind strong and free, nothing can imprison you at all, and your riches will come to you. It may not be gold and silver. It might be an education. It might be the start of your own business. It might be, well, you never know. Now, remember, I asked you to think about Aretha Franklin's song, Who's Zooming Who? See, when you're zooming somebody, not like this gathering of this August group, when you're zooming somebody, you're getting over. So who was getting over? The so-called Mazza or King John Silver? And the next time someone tells you you can't, show them you can. Asante. Whew. Thank you. I'm not quite up to stuff today, but thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Oh, Baba C. That was amazing. Oh man, I'm gonna have to watch the recording again to go back and get like so many nuances and subtleties and non-so subtleties. And while I'm there laughing at one thing, something else slipped out. I was like, what was that I just missed? And I'm still laughing at the last one. Thank you, brother. And yeah,
Thank
just
you.
to make it clear for anybody who might have sometimes heard the exchanges between Babasi and I and think there, you know, is some kind of animosity between us. Well, there is, but we keep that private. So the stuff that happens out here in public is just for show. And hold on,
I didn't know he could say the word animosity. I mean, that's a new
I
one.
forgot the rest of it. And I would like it to be known that I loves Baba C down to the bone, and he is the greatest storyteller ever.
And I am supposed to say, don't read this part, that Baden is one of the most prolific.
You need to mute now, my friend.
And I really truly appreciate his upcoming talents.
And coming up, we have someone who is truly unique. I've seen this gentleman, I've lost count of how many times, and it doesn't matter how many times I see him, he never ceases to amaze, to astound, to illuminate, to educate, to enlighten. He's a truly stellar talent. I'm speaking, of course, about the one, the only, the inimitable, the incredible, the influential, the intuitive. I've come up with a few more words beginning with in. The one and only Baden Prince, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Usifu Jallo.
Hey, how you doing?
All the better for seeing you, my brother.
And with that, we call the ancestors. And I want to double a couple of stories tonight. I want to double a couple of stories for you. In fact, I want to start with a story that we are all familiar with, but I want to turn it on its head. Let me see if you can all tell me what that story is. There was a giant, and this giant, he lived up in the clouds. He was such a giant that provided for everything. He made sure that his castle that he built was so strong. He made sure that inside this castle, everything he wanted was there. He was never afraid to work. He would go out in the fields to work. He would bring everything that he could. He was not even afraid to go to the mines and dig up the ground to bring out gold, to bring out precious gems he would have all in his castle. Oh, by the way, he even had a chicken that laid gold. Imagine that. On top of that, he even had a musical kora instrument that was also made of golden strings. And this giant was so powerful, had everything. He had a beautiful wife too. His wife was so wonderful. This giant would go to work and come back and go to work and come back. But one day, when he came to his castle, he smelled something funny. He turned to his wife, wait a minute, my wife, you know, 544 and something like, I smell the blood of, and the wife said, oh, well, shut up, you've been drinking again, eh? This is your problem. As soon as you get small, you go and you start drinking ogogoro, you start drinking palm wine, you have been drinking. I've told you to leave that can alone, that beer can alone. Okay, I've told you, right? All right, so, and he says, look, my wife, I have smelled something really fine. My wife says, look here, I've told you, don't hang out with those Irish people, start drinking this poutine. That poutine, leave it alone, all right? I've told you. And he says, no, I know I've been to Ireland and back, you know, but this I did not take poutine. I only took Guinness. In fact, in Scotland, I went there as well, but they gave me something called Johnny Walker, something like that. And I walked, but my wife, I am smelling something. And the wife says, look, go to sleep. You've eaten enough pounded yam. You've eaten enough egusi. You've eaten enough jollof rice. You've eaten enough. Please go to sleep and leave us alone. I beg you. The husband thought, okay, no problem. So the giant went to sleep. As he went to sleep, he is really snoring away because now everything is fine in his castle. All of a sudden, he heard his golden harp started going, his golden kora going. Hey, he jumped up and, hey, what is my kora play? What is my kora play? But not only that, even his tama that he had beside his bed, the tama was also going. Everything was, he woke up thinking, what is going on? When he came out of his bedroom, he looked out, he saw this tiny, peeny, poxy little boy carrying his chicken that lays this golden egg. And he thought, what is this boy doing? He picked up his big koboko. He held onto it, koboko. He says, you boy, you'll come back here with my gold. Wow, he chased the boy. He chased the boy. I mean, but this boy can run. Yeah, that boy can run. Eh? This giant chased this boy as far as he could. Next thing you know, this boy, he started climbing down a tree. This giant had never seen a tree like this up in his area, in his backyard. What kind of tree is this? I will chase you, I will get my chicken from you. And as he chased him, he went down this strange tree that he'd never seen. I mean, he was so big, the tree was swinging like that. But the small little taxi boy was so fast. The boy was down. The boy called out, says, Mama, come, please, mommy, come, cut down this tree. And mommy chopped down the tree. Boy, the giant fell down, and the poor giant died. Well, this is a story that the giant retold when he stood in the day of judgment in front of the Almighty God. That is, for me, a part of what Black history is also about. It's about understanding the contributions, the power that is within us as Black people, because we have contributed so much. And like Babasi was talking about, we also would share the great joys, these richnesses that we have brought to this earth. We cannot ignore them. It's about time we really begin to understand how to bring all of these together, because at the end of the day, we will all share it and we'll all enjoy it together, rather than going in and trying to grab it just for one person or one group of people. It will not work. But let me move on to my other story that I want to share with you to go. Today, as you can see, I have left my big drum alone. I want to talk to you because African history is the beginning of Black history. So I want us to go back to that. What is African history? What is Black history? Maybe we'll examine what it is through this story I'm coming to share with you. And I'm also warning that it is Halloween, I hear, at least. And if it is Halloween time, I see people buying pumpkins everywhere and shaping it up. Me, I take the pumpkin and cook the thing and boil it and make pumpkin stew and eat. No pumpkin come and witch me. I will witch that pumpkin. So I see they chop the pumpkin and give it the pumpkin teeth. No, I am the one who have the teeth. I will eat that pumpkin. So it is. So I'll share to you a story that is slightly horror, but within that, who knows what gem we might pick from it. In this town, there was a rule, there was a law, a very simple rule. And the rule was simply that everybody, you can walk to the farm, you can do anything you want to do in the farm as long as the sun is up, no problem. But before the sun sets, everybody must return back to your village. Everybody, you must return back. You must make sure you do not stay in the farm before or after the sun sets, rather. You must not. Simple rule. Everybody would go to the farm to work. They would harvest their rice. But there was an old woman who did not have a farm. She was poor. She did not farm to work. But this old woman, she has a dog with her. And every single day she would take her dog and she would go to the farm and she would harvest the remaining rice in the farm. That after everybody had harvested, there's a few rice stalks that will remain in the farm. And so the woman would come and would harvest this remaining rice. And she would thresh it, parboil it, and would cook it for herself and her dog to eat. Every day, this is what this woman would do. Well, she got to the farm. One time the sun is up and she got the rice, harvested the remaining rice, threshed, parboiled, and thought, you know what? The sun is still up. I might as well go into the abule. An abule is a hut that you'll always find inside, in the farm, basically. It's like a hut you build just for you to go and rest from the hot burning sun. So she went inside the abule. I'll cook today inside the abule because the sun is up. No need to rush home. So she got inside there and she stood with the mata odo, which is what in English we say a mortar. We call it mata odo. And she held a pestle. We call it mata pencil. And she started pounding the rice. And as she pounded the rice inside this abule, her dog was laying outside. The dog lay outside as usually to protect the woman, to look after her. The dog was quietly laying there. But as she pounded away, she did not realize that the sun had gone down. And it was while she was still pounding, the jinnis, all the spirits that live in the forest, were now beginning to return home. It was their time to return home. And now it's the time for all humans to go. But she was busy in the hut. Poof, poof, poof. But as in the human world, so also in the jinni world. It was the baby jinnis that came running to come back home. And as they were coming, they heard this sound. Poof, poof, sound that they'd never heard before. And so the baby jinnis, they started asking, Nankana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. And the dog that was laying outside, the dog answered. Na eh, na eh, na eh, na eh, na ondo na eh. And the woman, she heard this dog making all this noise. What kind of a silly dog is this, making noise like this? What is this? What is this? She went outside and shut up, sit down, sit, quiet. And she went back in. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. And again, the dog answered. Na eh, na eh, na eh, na eh, na ondo na eh. The Jinai, the baby Jinais are asking, who is pounding in that hut? Whose wrapper or the sarong is going wickedy, 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 making the sound like wickedy, wickedy. And the dog is answering, it is us, it is us, it is only us. And with that, the baby Jinais were assured that, it's only the dog, no problem. But the woman came back out. What kind of a silly dog is this? Now you want to give me trouble now. I've fed you all these years. I have fed you and you want to put me in trouble? She took a stick. Boom, boom, beat the dog. Shut up, sit down. And the dog sat down. Ungrateful thing. And she went back in. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. And the dog answered again. Na eh, na eh, na eh, na eh, na ondo na eh. And by this time, the woman was so furious, thinking this dog wants to put me in trouble. And all the dog was trying to do was to protect her. Oh, no, no, no. She was so angry, furious. She came out, she took a machete. She came out and she chopped the dog. And the dog fell down and died. She went back inside the pot. Ungrateful dog. You want to put me in trouble? I might as well get rid of you. In fact, it means I'll have more to eat. Ngana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Ngana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Na eh, na eh, na eh, na eh, na ondo na eh. The dead dog answered. And this woman, she looked around thinking, no, I cannot believe what is going on here. No, this is not right. This dog is full of witchcraft. Now I know where my problem has always been. It is this dog. This dog is full of witchcraft. Now I know all the witches, they are all inside this dog. And she went out, well, today I am going to end the life of all witches, especially those who go around looking like pumpkins. Like pumpkins. Today I'm going to deal with them. So she went, she gathered the dog, chopped up the dog in bits and pieces and scattered the dog all over the whole place. And she went back in. Gana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Gana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Na eh, na eh, na eh, na eh, na ondo na eh. The chopped up dog was singing. All to protect the woman. The woman came back out. You see, I told you, Brother Baden, I told you, oh, I told you. Baba, see, I told you, oh, I told you. I know exactly where my problem lies. This is the reason why I am poor. This is the reason why interest rates has been going up so high because of this dog. This is the problem. Why? And if we're not careful with the way things are going, and if we keep a dog like this around us, interest rates will go so high. And you know the problem with that now. We got to do something about this. And the woman, she came out. She gathered this chopped up dog and lit up a bonfire. And she did a bonfire long before bonfire came. And she burnt it all up. And she went back out. I'll deal with you all. And she started. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede wegede tiga. Na eh, na eh, na eh, na eh, na ondo na eh. the ashes of this burnt out dog was singing, only to protect the woman. Now the woman said, now I know exactly what the problem is now. And now I know this, a dog like this one, with this kind of witchcraft. No wonder people are going gray right now. It's from this dog that gray hair come from us, because it puts stress on all and every single one of us. Now you see the reason why Baden's hair is going gray. You see the reason why my own hair is gray as well. You see the reason why John's gray hair is long like this. It is because of this witchcraft dog. John Rowe, you know your problem now is because of this dog. That is why. And so the woman, he says, don't worry, my people, I'll solve your problem. By the time I finish with this dog, your hair will go black again, and you will look young and pretty again. And so she went outside and she swept all the ashes. She swept all the ashes of the dog, everything, and gathered it and threw it out in the river. She came back in. Ngana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Ngana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Na oh no, na. The hair of the dog that was on the broom was singing. My people, I told you something. Now this one, today, I am going to become the hero, the one who slay all the witches now finally. And she took the broom, she took the bucket, took water, washed the broom, washed the floor, everything clear. Finally, we got rid of all these witches. Me, I am going to be somebody good. And she started. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. 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 With the silence, all the Genites, the baby Genites were getting very scared because they'd never heard a sound like this before. With the answer of the dog, they're used to the dog's bark. But who is this? And by this time, the bigger Genites started coming. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Bigger Genites were now coming. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Bigger Genites were coming. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Bigger Genites were coming now. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Even more bigger Genites were coming now. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Nkana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. In fact, the biggest Genie now came. Nankana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. Nankana yonka bankanka wegede tiga. And as they came, hearing this sound that they'd never heard before, they got so worried, so anxious, so scared that on one side here they found a huge mountain, and the other side a huge mountain, and fire exploded from these mountains. And as it exploded, it engulfed the hut, the abule, it engulfed the old woman too. And with that, our elders say, everything in nature has its purpose. One of the reasons why our ancients kept our environment flourishing, blossoming for hundreds of thousands of years, even millions of years, was because for them, everything was sacred. Dogs, other animals can hear what you and I as humans cannot hear. They can smell what you and I cannot smell. We must respect them. We must allow them to thrive in their own time. Right now, we may say it's night time and it's time for us to sleep. But guess what? In England here, the foxes are out. This is morning for them. It's time for them to survive. So the same with everywhere in the forest. And we must respect that. When we disrespect that, eventually it will turn in on us. And this for me is what African history is about. It's what Black history is about. a history that has kept the earth flourishing for millennia. And today, those of us who've come along, we're only babies in comparison to the length of years that these ancestors have lived. What is it that we need to learn from those ancients? That with all our technology, we're still struggling even to keep lobsters thriving. What do we need to learn from them? I guess that's the question we need to ask. But for me, this is what Black history truly means. To go back and understand how we respect that darkness, that blackness from where we all come from. And that's where I'll stop it for now. Thank you all.
Massive round of applause for Usifu Jallo. We have about a minute. So here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to very, very briefly just say thank you to Shola Story, to Babasi, and of course to Usifu Jallo for the performances tonight, to all of you for coming along. And what I've loved about tonight is that when you're working with artists of this caliber, you don't have to really say very much. You don't have to do very much. You just have to open the door, let them in, and let the magic happen. Which is what's happened tonight. I think it's been magical. It's been absolutely incredible. I'm going to step aside and I'm going to invite, for the next minute or so, any members of the audience who might have a question that they want to put to the artists or any comments you might want to make, and just say, have your say. And I'd like to reassure our younger listeners that no dogs were actually harmed in the telling of that last story. So please be reassured. Over to you.
Can we also give a big round of applause to Baden for his hosting and for his storytelling?
Oh, he has surpassed himself this evening. Yes.
And can I mention that this whole program came from you, from the African continent, from North Africa, where Waleed was at the controls. Waleed, please show yourself.
Where is he?
The flyer of our magic carpet. The palette of our magic carpet.
Good man. Fishmonger Stories, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You put a comment in.
Baden, you muted yourself. I didn't do it this time. You did it.
You put a comment in the chat. What does it mean?
I just want to say thanks to all the tellers. It's been great. And I loved the jostling back and forth. And I'm watching from Detroit, Michigan.
Wow. Oh, United States.
Yes.
I'm in Washington, D.C.
All right. And I'm an ICU nurse with the Detroit Medical Center. I'm a travel nurse. And I use storytelling a lot in dealing with my patients.
Guys, look, even before this young man says anything, let me tell you now about this young man. If I know a dedicated student, it is this young man. When he first encountered my style of storytelling and so on, I can tell you straight up front, this young man, and I use that word young man here because his heart is that young. He just followed right through, and he has made and carved a whole niche for himself using storytelling to educate people and using it within his health sector. And I've followed him through for the past few years that he has been developing his art. So he's been following us in per se, and diligent students to the art of storytelling. Okay, so before he even starts saying, I would like to edify him and honor his studious heart. And as we say, a karande is somebody who is dedicated to learning the art of storytelling. So thank you so much, bro, for being here with us. I just want to honor you with that one, even before you say anything. But you can talk now if you want.
Respect.
Yeah, thank you very much, brother Usifu Jallo, for being a mentor and for allowing me to use a lot of your stories initially, because I started telling stories about 2 years ago, right, because of the pandemic. And I was looking out for, who are the storytellers out there? Who do I follow? Who do I emulate? And the first person I met was Brother Usifu Jallo. I watched all his content and I reached out to him. And after that, I started reaching out to a lot of storytellers who have allowed me to kind of learn the craft from them, how they tell it and watch it. And have exposed me to people like Baba C right now, and Mr. Baden Prince and Shola. So I'm really humbled. I thank God for what you guys have done. Because of your shoulders, Yahoos like us can come back and emulate and even go farther. So thank you, the tellers that have been before us, and may God keep you, sustain you, and keep telling. You are a great example to us, and we'll keep following. Thank you very much.
And folks, you notice he said Shola and Usifu and Babasi, but Mr. Baden Prince. I'm just putting that out there, yeah. Mr.
He pays respect
Baden
to
Prince.
his elders.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
And when you're as old as you are, you should be called Mr.
Yes, Mr. Baden Prince. So you can check out my stories on YouTube, Fishmonger Stories, and
put it in the chat if you can.
I will.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else?
Briefly. When we share praises, praises that are earned, when we share praises to the ear are like flowers to the nose. They should be experienced while one is alive to appreciate them. Praises given after one's past, although are honorable, does the departed no good. It is now that we share and support each other. It is now that we help each other when we're faltering, and that we remind and extol each other when we're doing well, because those things feed the soul. And when you feed the soul, the tree of life and spirituality expand and grow. And the fruit from that are those that follow. I need to write a book.
Can I just say to Fishmonger Stories,
yes, sir.
that next Sunday, every other Sunday on this platform, we have a worldwide story round, and anyone can come and tell a story. I need to hear you. I never have the time to listen to everything else but this platform because I'm running it. But please come and
please join us.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'll be honored to.
Lovely.
And anyone that has young tellers, that they know of young tellers that would like to share their stories, a platform for telling stories, every Tuesday at 2 hours earlier at 5 o'clock UK time, we have the International Young Tellers, and we invite young tellers from across the world to tell their stories. And occasionally we have storytellers from India, from Gaza, from Nigeria coming on, but there is always room for more. So we invite any young tellers that you know to come on. I realize in the United States that's difficult because of the time of day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rowe. I've been following you for a very long time.
You're very old.
Yes. No, not like that.
Since he was a babe.
For the past couple of years, Mr. Rowe.
Okay, before this deteriorates any further.
One last thing, baby.
Go on, Babasi.
Okay, so one of the things that fascinates me about this assemblage is how we have people from the four corners of our very round globe and so many different cultural and heritage backgrounds coming together. There's been not one argument, not one derisive word said, except for between you and I, not one derisive word said. Everything has been in complete celebration and support. And this is the power of stories. And this is the power when people come together to share the positive as opposed to the negative. And they should be commended. John Rowe, when I first met you, I knew that you were like me, crazy, but we're not insane, at least not yet. I want to compliment you, commend you, because you and others, too many to mention because I'll leave somebody else's name out, but you have this ability to bring us all together. And here we are celebrating Black history and also Halloween. Can I tell a real quick, short Halloween story?
Let me just say something very quickly before you do that. There's somebody who's joined us from Jamaica, and unfortunately the clocks going back, I think, has kind of thrown her timing out. So I just want to send a word to her to say that if she goes to www.worldstorytellingcafe.com, there is an archive there of all the shows, all the events that have been recorded back through time, including this one tonight. So it's simply a question of clicking on to today's date, and you'll be able to watch back this evening's event in its entirety. Okay, go ahead. And really, really quick, we've got about 2 minutes.
This is a real quick story. And so the name doesn't matter, but we're gonna call him Billy. And this story, being a Halloween story, of course, took place on a stormy night. In fact, some people say it was a hurricane. Some people say it was a tornado. All I know for sure is that a little boy got separated from his campsite and found a small abandoned house, and he went inside the house, and the winds howled and the rains pounded and the thunder did what it does. It thunders, and it was thundering and howling. The rain was coming and the building was shaking. It was shaking at its very foundation, and the boy was scared and he was wet and he was cold and he didn't know what to do. And suddenly another little boy appeared and said, "Come with me real quick. Come with me real quick. If you want to live, come with me real quick." And so the boy followed the other little boy, and they followed down to a little set of stairs, and they pulled a trap door on top of him, and they were in a root cellar where, believe it or not, there was edible food. And so while the storm and thunder howled and shook the building above, they were safe. And finally the storm abated, and the little boy climbed back up. And when he climbed up, he couldn't get the door open because the building had collapsed upon it, and it was full of rubble. And the rescue people were building and were dragging the rubble away, and they pulled him out of the trap door. And they said, "Oh, are you okay?" He said, "I think so." But he said, "Well, what happened?" "I was trapped in the house, but the little boy downstairs in the basement, he told me to follow him if I wanted to live, and I did." "Little boy?" "Yes, the little boy, you must go down there and save him." So quickly they went down, and they searched that cellar from top to bottom, but no boy was ever to be found. And some say it's not the first time this story has been told. Some say it's not the first time this story has been told. But in the back of this little building, a plot of land, there's a tombstone. And it has on there, "Here lies a good boy. He was so good, they called him Good Boy." Now, I don't know if the story is true or not, but I tell you, I'd like to have a good boy like that watching after me. In honor of my dad, who was born on Halloween.
I think that's a fitting note on which to end.
Yes,
Yep, round of applause. Just finally to thank everyone who's come along here tonight. Thanks, Babasi, for the historical information that sort of backed up your story. Shola, thanks for that amazing story. I'm going to get in touch with you to talk details. The inimitable Mr. Usifu Jalo for those two appended tales and the morals that accompanied them, and just for being you, sir. What else can I say? John, thanks for putting it all together. Thanks to World Storytelling Cafe for making all of this possible. Thank you all. And wherever you are, I bid you a safe and peaceful night.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Baden.
Until the next time, to be continued.
Good night.
Bless up,
Hasta luego.
people.
Coming up.
Enough love.
Oh, John has to
Enough
talk
love.
about what's coming up.
Is John
John's
got
See
talking
a,
about
you
what's
in
coming up.
Marrakesh.
John's, yep. See you soon. John's got an announcement.
So Friday, Friday we always have stories for children, and this Friday coming, it's Deborah Weller from USA. I think Deborah's down in Texas. I'm not sure. I think if my memory serves me right,
Florida, John. Florida.
Florida. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. The bit that sticks out. There's a whole bit of Black History Month sitting down in Florida from way back from that would be a different story for a different time.
Yes.
And it's kind of relevant from the early time. These three people way back, but that's something else. But Florida, Deborah Weller from Florida. So Tuesday is Young Tellers, Friday is Deborah, and Sunday is Worldwide Story Round. But for now, thank you, Waleed, for flying the magic carpet. Thank you, everyone who's told tonight. It's been one of those classic nights on the World Storytelling Cafe. So
Amen.
good night, and thank you for being there. Thank you, everyone who told.
Good
Thanks,
night, and
everybody.
God bless you all. Night,
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.
Everyone.
Take care.
Guten Abend,
Take
Thanks,
care.
Waleed.
Nabend Gubens,
Nagan.
Asante
Au
sana.
revoir.
Sikitu.
Odabo. Odabo.
What he
Au
said.
revoir, Jiware.
Bye bye.
Until the next time, everyone take care. To be continued. Baden, you were superb. Shola always. Yusefu, I have a godson whose last name is Jallo, and he is an extraordinary young fellow. Went from server to general manager of an upscale restaurant in 4 years. All right, I'm going to be quiet. I know no one believes it.
Oh, Baden's gone. That means no more banter between you and Baden.
No, it just means
Yeah.
you can't see it. Sure. I really appreciate you. You and Yusefu bring so much, and Baden, but you and Yusefu bring so much joy to my heart. For a moment, I forgot that I had a mild case of the flu. So that was good, you know. And the short story I told, I didn't let them know, but I just made that one up on the spot. And like I said, in respect to my dad, who would have been almost 100 now, because today would be today or tomorrow would be his birthday. I always get confused, and he would never really confirm.
Yeah.
Say again.
I do that with my own dad. I can never remember whether it's the 2nd or the 3rd of March.
Yeah. See, it used to be that Halloween was a 2-day celebration, 30 and 31st. And I once asked my dad if he was a treat baby or a trick baby. And he said, isn't your birthday April 1st? Knowing good well my birthday is not April 1st. April 1st is April Fool's Day.
Mm-hmm.
My birthday is August 4th. But, you know, my dad had quite a sense of humor. Anyhow, they are shutting us down now. You and I need to stay in contact with each other, him and my mom. They both had very interesting sense of humor. But you and I need to stay in contact, please, brother.
Yeah.
And I look forward to talking with you again. Fishmonger, I put my email address there, but you can always look me up, Baba C Storyteller. Whole lot of good stuff will pop up. If it's not good stuff, it's not me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Waleed. I know you're waiting for me to say it, Waleed. So I'm going to say it. Then you got to close us down. All right, Waleed. Here we go. C out.
Well, Fishmonger Stories. I've just put, if you look there, Shola Story, that Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just friend me, connect with me on there, and then we'll continue talking. And anybody also.
Thank you very much.
I'm gone.
All right.
Bless up, people. Take care.
Right. I'm going to be the last man standing.
It's going to be a tie. Here I go again. See, I got to get a new tagline. But here we go. See, out